Ray Dalio has a new book out, and I want to tell you how it affects you and your finances. So stick with me to the end of this. We'll play a little clip of Ray Dalio actually making a presentation on CNN about this. His new book is called How Countries Go Broke. We're sort of on the precipice of starting a debt crisis in America, and you need to know that if the new tax bill passes and Ray Dalio is right, how Ray Dalio, the manager of one of the largest global hedge funds in the world, suggests that you take care of your finances. So Ray Dalio runs the very famous fund that he started many years ago called Bridgewater, 50 years, a global investment firm. He's got a few books out, one very famous book called Principles that I think is really good, and his new book called How Countries Go Broke. And let me just describe to you what Ray calls the debt crisis we are about to embark on. It's just like you and your house. So let's explain it the way you would think about it if you had credit card bills and then you had insurance bills. So your credit card bills create interest, and your insurance bills are how you protect yourself. So you protect yourself against life, fire, accident, all that sort of thing. So the day that your interest on your credit card is so high, you cannot pay for your protection bills for your life insurance, your health insurance, your home insurance, right? Then you get into danger because you're losing your protection to pay for the debts that you have. This is exactly the same calculus for the United States of America right now. What Ray Dalio sees is that we are on the tipping point, that if we pass this new current bill, that we will have such a large amount of debt that we're borrowing essentially from China. China and Japan are our two biggest debtors, that the interest on our debt will exceed what we spend on defense to protect ourselves. That is the tipping point, the time that we become vulnerable, the time that we become a debtor society, and the time that we start to lose our global dominance. This is a very dangerous point. I don't know if it's going to happen, but again, when you listen to Ray Dalio on this little clip from CNN,
it's like being on a ship that's headed to rocks. And there are those who want to turn right and those who want to turn left. And they're so hell-bent on arguing of whether they turn right or left that they will not get past, they're going to hit the rocks.
About the dangers of this tipping point, it's really important that we all pay attention to what happens with the current tax bill, with the current U.S. debt, and how it affects us. Now, there's a couple of things that he said, which I think are really important about how you can protect yourself if, in fact, some of these things come true. So let's just go through them. I have actually a couple of notes here. Number one, first and foremost, I do think that you have to have less reliance on government programs to protect you. What that means is that if we're paying so much money for corporate debt, we will not be able to support things like Medicare, Social Security, Medicaid, defense, and other things. So you need to make sure you have an independent retirement type program, what we call a pension substitute. Make sure you have plenty of money, number one, and that money is in those things that will pay you income for life, which is like a Social Security substitute. So make sure that you're ready. Now, if you're a very affluent person, I know you want this bill to pass because it will save you about 3% in income taxes, especially on incomes in excess of $1 million. So if you're a very affluent person, a lot of what I'm talking about probably won't apply to you. However, if you're an average middle class working family and your income is less than $1 million, it's highly likely that you'll get no benefit from this tax bill. In fact, what the tax bill will do was undermine some of your fundamental, what we call social welfare programs, Medicare, Social Security, Medicaid. These are really kind of important things. So number one thing is make sure you have adequate savings, save up as much money as you can, and then deploy that money into private pension plans or private Social Security plans. Number two, make sure that you have unbelievably good medical coverage through private insurance companies, not necessarily dependent on the federal government. This is really important because there could come a day when universal type health care is not available even on a Medicare basis. So you need to be able to provide medical care for yourself and your family. So you need to have great medical insurance. If you're retired, great Medicare supplement insurance. Because the number one course toward bankruptcy in America is medical debt. The number one reason for bankruptcies in America is medical debt. I've been in the hospital a number of times myself. For those of you that haven't been in recently, it doesn't take any time at all to build up a $10,000 or $20,000 bill for either the concussion that I had playing hockey or the cut that I had in my hand from working at the cattle ranch, right? Any of those kind of things that land you in the hospital racks up a lot of bills right away. So let's have great medical insurance, not just medical insurance for while you're in America. Make sure that if you have medical insurance and you travel, that you have travel coverage that covers you outside the United States, so that if you get sick on vacation in the Caribbean or in Europe, that you're covered for that. So medical insurance globally, worldwide, super important. Now also, Ray is a really big proponent of alternative investments. Now what that means is investments other than the US dollar. Now I'm not a huge proponent of you piling up gold bars in your house. However, he is a big believer that you have some alternatives. So if you have heard us before talk about this, maybe 10% of your assets should be in hard assets, and that would be gold or silver or alternative investments. By the way, that includes real estate. You know that I'm a very big fan of real estate. It's a big part of wealth building. So of your net worth, a significant portion now, maybe 10% should be in those alternative investments. And if this tax bill passes, it's probably a good idea to have more like 20% of your assets in what we would call alternatives. Things are not tied to the US dollar and the US stock market because we don't really know what's going to happen. Now, we could all be wrong about this. They could pass this bill. The world could rally behind America. We could retain our status as, the global world power that we have. But I do think that you need to plan for the worst, right? And then if the best happens, that's fine. So let's just kind of review for a second. If you have comments about this, by the way, go ahead and reach out to us, ask questions, send me some things online. I mean, we're actually very concerned about this. If you look at the clip of Ray Dalio talking, if that doesn't make your hair stand up, you're not like listening. He's a very wise global investor, and he sees things on the horizon that could get very ugly as far as the deficit in America and our debt service to other countries. Because remember, again, Japan is the number one person we owe money to, and the second one is China. Those are the people who have a mortgage on America. We owe them money. They bought our bonds, and we need to pay them. So it's like having a very unfriendly banker. So to get more information about the things that you need to do to protect yourself against the growing financial crisis in America, reach out to us. We have a little 5-point list taken right from Ray Dalio's talk. And just preparing yourself for the worst that could possibly happen is just part of the art of being smart.